I'm Jeremy White, and I'm pretty sure I've never felt better after the bye.
I'm Joe Marino, and I'm hungry for this Bills team to prove that they're dangerous.
I'm the big O, Jerry Ostroski. Public service announcement. The Bills are still 4-2. You're watching the Locked On Network, and this is Bill Squad.
Who's ready, Bills Mafia? It's the Bills Squad. Everything Buffalo Bills, every week. Breaking down the big hits and game-changing plays the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So gear up and squad up. The Bill Squad show starts now.
And welcome in, Bills Mafia. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and the big O, Jerry Ostroski here on a in-week Bills Squad show. With the bye week in the rearview mirror, we can turn our attention to the self-scout the Bills have done. The Panthers, we've got some news on a quarterback change there. How long that lasts, we'll see. And lots to talk about changes the Bills could make, all with you. This episode brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. So the news is, it looks like Bryce Young out, high ankle sprain. Don't know exactly how long, but that means Andy Dalton, our old friend Andy Dalton, is in as the starter for Carolina. We'll get to that. We've got another show later in the week that's maybe more of a Carolina preview. For now, we're here with you to talk about the self-scout of the Bills, maybe some changes they can make, offense, defense, the division, the Chiefs, the teams you watch through the bye week, and, of course, we didn't get Bills touchdowns. And Joe, Jerry, that I come out of bye weeks feeling bad because I don't get any good moments for my team. I only get fear from Kansas City and maybe even Indy and the Rams. And I saw some impressive teams, and the Bills are usually one of them. So I felt left out.
I think that's the way a lot of people feel, Jeremy. You know, it's I kind of felt that way Monday night watching all this other football happen. And where's Josh Allen? I want him doing Josh Allen things. And then that really didn't happen Monday night. And now it just kind of compounds, right? It's really been like a 3-week thing where you take the loss to the Patriots, and then you take the loss to the Falcons. You don't do anything in the bye. And meanwhile, you're watching the Colts look like they might be the best team in football. You see the Chiefs and their offense really coming to life. You see the Patriots and Drake May doing something special every week. It's, you know, the guy shows up every Sunday with 100 passer rating. Now he breaks Tom Brady's record for completion percentage in a game. And you're like, all right, well, what's this Bills team got? We don't know, right? We're concerned. They're 4-2. They've dropped 2 in a row. And you start to ask yourself questions like, what is this team actually doing well? Are they dangerous? Are they as good as these teams? Can they figure it out? You know, it's definitely a headspace that I think a lot of people are in, including myself.
I think the biggest problem with bye weeks are you watch these other teams and you get the envy thing, right? You're like, why can't we have an offense like them? Why can't we stop the run like that team? And why aren't the Bills doing this scheme like they're doing? And, you know, we get in our heads, right? We compound things. And, you know, I said it at the beginning of the show, this team's still 4-2. They're still talented. They still have Josh Allen. It is good that they are working through some things, I think, in the first 6 games, especially defensively in some areas where they're, as much as we like to doom and gloom about stuff, there are some areas that are getting better, and there's some reinforcements coming. Historically, this team has shown lulls and have come back out of it. You know, I think that it's hard during bye weeks, though, because you see the opponents. You watch Drake May have a Josh Allen type moment, which is the first ever too, right? Mm-hmm. He had an over 90% completion percentage this weekend, beat Tom Brady's record of, I think, which was 88% or 86%, and some of the stuff that he's doing. And, you know, you just kind of get in your feels, and you just wish your team was doing some of those things. But we're going to be okay. I think there are some things that need to work on, some things that need to change, but understand this team hasn't forgotten, you know, how to win and who they are. They just need to tweak some stuff.
Could it be good that they maybe feel pushed by New England? Because if there's anything that's different about this year versus previous years, they lose 2 all the time. They do. They lose 2 in October, and then they win the division by 3 games. And right now already they got to chase another team down. And I wonder if that might, I don't know, buckle them in a little bit. Not to say they're not connected, but just that might be a good thing that they've got a team to chase.
I 100% agree with you that it feels different because of what Drake May is doing with the New England Patriots. This guy's a superstar. He's not just like a pretty good quarterback. He's an absolute dude. And usually it's like, oh, Miami's hot. Like, okay, right. Who cares? We know how that ends. They're going to fall apart. And they've already fallen apart this year. And so I think that's what's different. If we're being honest, it's Drake May and it's this Patriots team and it's Mike Vrabel. And you start to wonder, has it passed the Bills by? And I think that's probably a bit of a victim of the moment. But I think what Drake May is doing is absolutely legit. And there is certainly competition. And yeah, if I wanted to make a positive spin on it, it's probably that. It's, hey, this team has to focus in. They're not going to sleepwalk through another AFC East title. And so if that helps, we'll take it. But I do think at the root of the way a lot of us are feeling is this Drake May guy. And let's not lie about what 15 is doing over there in Kansas City. He looks pretty good too.
I think this team has always been better as the underdog. I think this team has always done much better in this structure as the team that has to always prove itself, the Bills against the world, so to speak. It goes along with Josh Allen, and we've heard his story a million times, and the no offers and the JUCO and the Wyoming. And it's just kind of the way this team is structured, in my opinion. And I think that it does great things for the Bills to have now an antagonist within the AFC East in New England and them playing good football, and they beat us earlier in the year. I always feel the Bills play better with a chip on their shoulder than they do as the favorites. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like I said earlier, it's the Josh Allen thing, but this team always needs a motivation or a carrot, so to speak. And I think they've got it right now, and it just so happens to be in week 7 of the season.
So looking at the AFC picture, you've got the Colts on the top. They look pretty good. Their offense looks great. After that, I mean, we've seen some teams near the top, like the Steelers that people maybe don't take seriously, or the Chargers. Bills and Chiefs. I feel like the conversation, guys, is about what are we seeing at the end of the season? And if you're just charting them on a graph, like how good they look, the Bills right now, it's a bit of a low point. And the Chiefs are at a high right now. They've hit a couple of weeks where their offense looks spectacular. And of course, anybody would say peak at the right time. So let's kind of get to, how do the Bills get to us feeling about them the way that Chiefs fans feel about their team right now? They've seen them do this before. Here it comes. All their weapons are there. We'll get to that. How do the Bills get there? Let's start on offense. What is Joe Brady's move from here? Because I do feel like he kind of has a lot to prove. He's had a really good run of success with this Bills offense, not turning the ball over, running the ball well. Brady's been the toast of town for quite some time, and this feels like the first real moment of, all right, time to find an answer. What is the answer? Joe, do you have an answer, Joe, for Brady on the things he can do starting this week with Carolina to get that thing back on the right track?
I got a lot of ideas, but I think the central idea that I have for Joe Brady and this offense to get on track is by remembering the ideas that you hear the team preach all the time about how it being a matchup league, and it's about mismatches. And I think the Bills' best opportunity offensively to present a mismatch to the defense is to leverage their big people, the offensive line, the run game, the 2-back, 2 tight end formations, Josh Allen. Like, those components are what makes this team dynamic. It's not 11 personnel and Keon Coleman. It's just not, right? No. Like, it's how can you be two-dimensional out of your big people formations, because the Bills can do some special things with multiple tight ends and multiple backs on the field with how they can stress a defense, whether it's running the football or throwing the football out of it. And I think that's what the Bills do best. And I think that's what puts defenses in the biggest bind is, oh my goodness, what are we going to do with this formation and these people on the field? And instead, a lot of times they want to get back into some 11 personnel, and it's just not what they have. Maybe if it was Diggs, Beasley, and Brown, it would be, but it's not, right? That's not who they have. And right now, Keon Coleman is leading this team in targets. He's leading this team in offensive snaps played at the wide receiver position, and I don't think that's justified whatsoever. He's a highly inefficient player that has had obviously issues with maturity and doing all the right things off the field. He's been suspended twice in less than 2 years, had a struggle to come back from an injury. And the Bills have to stop thinking that Keon Coleman's George Pickens, right? He's just not that guy. And so get away from that type of stuff and get into your big people stuff where you can really create mismatches and stress defenses and be two-dimensional out of those big sets. I think that's been at the core of why their offense didn't do what it was supposed to do against New England and Atlanta. And boy, it was tough. It was tough to me to watch the 49ers on Sunday Night Football do what they did against Atlanta, because Atlanta was exactly the team I told you they were all week long. But the Bills went out there and didn't do the right stuff for them to be successful in that game. And so I want to see this team get back to their bread and butter. It's 12 personnel, 13 personnel, 21, 22, run it and throw it out of that.
To expand on what Joe said about that Atlanta game, I think the most disappointing thing to me was with Kincaid out of the game, I expected to see Alec Anderson in the game and getting back some of our big stuff, mashing those undersized defensive linemen down inside, creating some more lanes for James Cook. Obviously, they didn't do that. They tried to do that with Jackson Hawes and also Dawson Knox. I would have liked to have seen Anderson come in and do those things. And I agree. To try to prove a point with this everybody eats mantra that we're going to go out and show people that we can win games with the receiver play that we have is silly. And you're not utilizing the best players in the best areas on your team. I think the last two games, the biggest thing that New England and Atlanta had done, because to me anyway, it seemed like the answer always was Josh's ability to make plays on the move. And what those two teams did better than anybody we've constructed against was when Brady got in that situation, and we'll do what we do and let him blitz because Josh can get out of it. Both of those teams have done a very good job of containing Josh and not allowing him to extend plays. How many times have you seen Josh Allen sacked in the pocket? As many times as he has over the last few games. There's a reason for that, and it's the way defenses are playing them. You got to line up, play bully ball, get your big personnel in, get James Cook the rock. You got two other backs that can do it. I'd also like to expand off of that, Joe and Jeremy, and see us run some designed routes, not just screens, not the rail route with Cook, but actually some spot throws to James Cook out of the backfield, because we can set that up with the way we pass protect and get backs out of the backfield all the time. And, you know, simplification a lot of times is better than trying to get complex. And you got to rely on your horses, and our horses are not playing Keon and 11 personnel and throwing him the ball all the time. It's just not what it is.
You know, at the risk of like making this too much about Coleman, you know, you're talking about the inefficiency, Joe. Is it easier to blitz the Bills? Is it easier to send 6 at Allen when you feel like the personnel on the field, you know what they can do? I mean, if Coleman is out there, you know, well, that guy's not going to beat us if we get after Allen at full speed. Are you talking about taking him off the field, like snap number comes way down, and it's just, who is it that's out there? It's especially if Palmer's not available in his week to week. Like,
yeah.
What are the answers there if you are going to try and go that direction without Coleman?
Well, you mentioned Palmer. If he's healthy, I think a lot of that should go to him. And that's what they did on that first play against Atlanta. They were in 21 personnel, or no, 22 personnel. The only receiver on the field was Palmer. And obviously he was able to route up that corner in ways that Keon would dream about doing. But I do think that you are correct that the Bills are a team that they're appealing to blitz for a number of reasons. I think it probably starts a lot with not having as much fear of what you're leaving exposed in coverage. But also, I think the Bills, their right guard, Osiris Torrance, has been twisted up quite a bit in pass pro. It's been a multiple-year thing where when teams want to stress the Bills' pass protection schemes, they go at 64. They do. And he's not consistent with how he picks that stuff up, and it creates free runners in the face of Josh Allen. But ultimately, the Bills don't, to Jerry's point, they don't leverage their pass-catching running backs nearly enough. The Bills right now are 30th in percentage of targets that go to running backs. They have 17 catches, 17 catches in 6 games. And I think this is how you make teams pay, not only for blitzing, but for how they are committing attention to Josh Allen, whether that's containing him with emphasis to not allowing him to get to his right, but also just using that spy mirror player. And the Bills have to make teams pay for that. Like, that's a choice. If you're going to commit a player just to mirroring Josh Allen, well, that's got to be your opportunity to just exploit that with running back catches out of the backfield. And so I think that that's a huge part of this equation, is making teams a little more hesitant and questionable to send pressure because they're more afraid of what type of damage the Bills can do with the choice that they make to commit more attention to the pocket.
And I think he has to scheme up some stuff for James Cook in third down and blitz situations, because we know this. A team has an advantage when they blitz the Bills because that usually means James Cook is off the field.
Yeah.
And so one of their best players is not on the field in that situation. You scheme the blitz up to contain Josh, and James is off the field. Now all of a sudden things get a little bit sketchy because you're not going to win a lot of the routes outside. So they've got to do something to where if we let these backs out of the backfield in the blitz, we've got to scheme something up where James Cook can be on the field in third down and still be productive enough and be that weapon we need him to be. Because right now they haven't found or figured out a way to do that.
They play the Panthers this week. The Panthers do have some good wins on their card. They beat the Falcons. They beat the Cowboys. I'm not sure how good you think these wins are. They beat the Dolphins and the Jets. They got blown out by New England in a game a couple weeks ago. So, a backup quarterback, that's one thing. I think Bills fans will expect them to win this game. How do you like the matchup? I know we'll do it a little more next week, but is this a good Panthers team defense to try and get to some of these concepts you're talking about out of the bye week?
Well, I do. I think one of the biggest questions that the Panthers have is at the linebacker position and what type of quality they have there. I think they have a corner 2 question. I think their safeties are just probably average at best. And so, yes, I do think that you can stress that. And what they have is they have some tanks up front. They had Derek Brown and Deshaun Wharton and Bobby Brown and Nick Scorton and these types of players up front that I think will give them a chance to be competitive in their run game. And I think you have to find ways to kind of soften them up a little bit. And this to me would be a good opportunity. I have a lot more research to do on Carolina, which I'll do throughout the course of the week, but just kind of looking at their personnel, I feel like there should be some good matchup opportunities.
Panthers do play good defense, so they are 7th in the league in defense.
All right. Well,
which remember, this was historically literally the worst defense the world has ever seen last year. They gave up the most points. I think they gave up almost maybe 3,000 rushing yards, maybe more.
Right.
It was insane. And they went and gave all the money and resources they could to their defense, and they got a lot better. And I think obviously Derek Brown missing last year, that's their best defensive player. Him coming back is a pretty big deal.
Love getting all your comments in as we stream here. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, Big O, Jerry Ostroski. Lots to talk about on this episode. And as you drop a comment, I'm putting little stars on a lot of these today. We're going to get to these later in the show. So we've got some good questions, some good stuff to get to. I've got some fun questions for you guys too. During the bye week, my mind goes to bad places, scary places about the Bills and matchups. And, I watched that Chiefs game and I'm a little worried. So we got lots to get to, including what the defense can do here, the changes they'll make, the self-scout from the bye week. What can the Bills do to change their fate on defense where they probably need bigger changes? So we'll get to that coming up. Again, drop a like, a subscribe, and a comment or question as well. We'll get to that as the show rolls on here. This is the Bills Squad show on the Locked On Bills channel. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's SAD, software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. It's the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's simple to use, gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch, whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one or just fill in the gaps in your software stack. Rippling can do it all. And right now you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. This episode also brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks, fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing touchdowns, and you're in the game. It's quick and easy. Make your lineup in under a minute, and they just added stacks. You want to ride with a player, you can select their pass yards, rush yards, touchdowns, all in one lineup. Fun, easy to use, and the injury reboot feature, if your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKDOWNNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKDOWNNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Back here on the Bill Squad Show, I want to mix a comment or two in as we transition from the offensive conversation and into defense and where things go from here, because we've got a lot of these. And Kyle writes in, are we at a Ken Dorsey panic if we don't blow out the Panthers? Now, guessing on panic can be tough to do. Thanks, Kyle, for the comment. If they lose, we're at panic. I think people will really panic if they somehow were to lose this game against Carolina. But just get to that Chiefs game at 5-2, and that'll be the game we really start to assess this team. I don't know, guys. I don't know how you feel about it. I feel like a win over Carolina is baseline. They win that game. The offense looks good, looks meh, whatever. It's business time. It's time to stack wins. You're in a race in this division, and wins are wins.
I mean, Joe Brady last year was the offensive coordinator for probably the best offense the Bills have ever put on the field, right? Like,
yeah.
Can we just take a second? And I mean, I'm as nervous as anybody. I really am. But I also can recognize that they're in a bit of a lull, and it's not uncommon, and it's concerning, but let's find out. That was a really good offense last year. And even through some struggles this year, there's been some good production. They're still metrically very, very good offensively. Now, I think they just got to get back to their roots and lean more into the stuff we talked about in segment 1, and I think they're going to be just fine. But man, it's crazy. This fans, and myself included, very nervous. Oh no, is Joe Brady's going to be last year? Joe Brady. Now people hope he goes to Penn State. So it's funny how things change in just a couple of weeks in the NFL.
I think the biggest thing with Brady is where is he mentally? Is he willing to make the changes that they need to make, or does he just want to go ahead and keep doing what he's doing because he feels it worked last year and that's what he wants to continue to do, or try to prove himself and prove everybody else wrong? I think that's the biggest question mark right now. We'll see that this week. I think the best thing in this situation is this: we know the quarterback's not happy. We know that he wants to play better. We know he wants the offense to play better. So I would expect changes. And like we said earlier, I don't think these are going to be drastic changes, right? I don't think we're going to come out and we're going to see them line up in 4 wides or things like that. I mean, most of this is figure out a way on third down where we can be effective with teams trying to contain Josh on the scramble, or find a way to get him back out of the pocket and then continue to go to the guys that we know can make plays. If we can do those things, we'll be fine. If we continue to beat our head against the wall and try to tell everybody that Keon Coleman is a number 1 wide receiver in this league, then we'll probably have some of the same issues.
I used to refer to this with Dorsey, not that they are parallels, but it's the curse of having Josh Allen. Having Josh Allen's amazing.
Yes.
The curse is everybody knows he's amazing. And when your offense stops looking like it can be amazing, all of a sudden every eye goes right to you. So if Joe Brady, they have a good run game, that's great. But I'm guilty of this, guys. When they don't throw the ball with ease, I immediately start to say, like, how could this possibly happen? This guy is amazing. What's wrong? And Joe, you've identified sometimes it's Allen not having the best game or not making the right reads. But I do think that it places a level of pressure on Brady and Allen's supporting cast to do the job, because we know how good he can be at that.
Yeah, and I think that would elevate everybody, right? I think you feel that to an extent. Like, I don't think anybody wants to let Josh Allen down. And I've said this before, Josh Allen's awesome, probably the best player in the NFL. And so when the Bills lose, it's usually not going to be because of Josh Allen. It's going to be because of other things. But that doesn't mean we don't want Josh Allen to be awesome all the time, right? So when Josh Allen isn't playing his best, boy, there's a lot of headspace that people will take themselves to manufacture reasons as to why maybe Josh Allen didn't have his best game, man. We've seen everything this week. People are complaining about commercials. People are saying that he got married. People are saying that he lost his competitive fire. My emails and DMs and all, it's a dumpster fire right now with what people are doing here to convince themselves that, hey, you know what? Maybe the offensive coordinator just didn't have the best plan. And, because of that, it put Josh Allen in a bad spot and he made some decisions that he doesn't typically make. Like, maybe it is that simple and they just need to play another game. So, yeah, it is frustrating when Josh isn't awesome, but I still think that's the nature of the NFL. Actually, what's funny? Because I study this stuff all the time. Josh Allen's EPA right now this season is exactly the same as it was for the entirety of last year. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And I feel silly, like, if I'm just being candid, because I felt like going into that New England game, I had this big galvanize everybody moment where I'm like, people forgot who the Bills are and who they have. And then they stunk it up. And then they did it again, right? So I feel some type of way, but inside of me is still that thought that's like, man, I think that there's a lot of overreaction and they just need to play and start to figure it out. And at the end of this thing, it's going to be fine. But right now it doesn't feel good.
No, I agree. And, look at the last couple of games. You have Kincaid out. You got Palmer out after a couple plays. You've got – so same thing. I mean, maybe the plan was to really have Palmer involved. He goes out of the game. You got Kincaid. He's not playing. Obviously this is a guy that we tried to jettison off this offseason who was a bust, and now all of a sudden he's become the focal point of the passing offense, right? And the weapon that we have to have on the field. So, yeah, I mean, this is part of fandom. It can be frustrating. But honestly, looking at this season anyway, to me, it's really no different than what we've seen in the past out of the Bills. I think they're in a better position now than they've been because I just think this team plays so much better with a chip on the shoulder. I really do.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason that is, when they have all the voices on the outside of the locker room saying they're not good enough, they find a way to get real good real quick. So I would expect them to play well this week. I'd expect them to play well against Kansas City. Now, if they don't, then maybe this show's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's about time they played bad against Kansas City in the regular season.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm tired of that game not mattering.
Right.
It hasn't mattered.
But it's the same thing with Kansas City, guys. I understand that they've had some swoons offensively, but this is no different than what we've seen. They find a way to do things. They always do. I mean, this is no different. This is the same stuff. The only difference is what?
Drake
May. Drake May, yeah. But that's what happens when you suck for 5, 6, 7 years in a row.
Yeah.
You get high draft choices, and then all of a sudden your team is loaded with talent, right? Yeah. But seriously, though, I mean, the only difference out of this whole thing is the quarterback is obviously not comfortable and not playing well. So now that's why we're in optimum panic level.
It's also a spot, like as you guys say, like, whether it's playing with a chip on your shoulder or whatever. I also feel like, well, we've got a couple comments. Maybe they've looked flat. They haven't played well. That's happened before. I don't know that this team has ever gotten rattled long term,
right,
other than the Hamlin year when all that happened, and that that was a lot of baggage around that team. But other than that, 6-6 to 11-6 and win the division on the road in Miami. Like, this is old hat for them, Jerry. They've won a lot of games. They know what it's like to win, and they probably know what it's like in this moment. So, like, all right. It's like to Joe's point, like, fine, we're the Bills. We'll remember who we are. We'll show everyone what we can do.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up because we have not had a chance to talk about this yet, and I wanted your two's opinion on this. Did you watch the video of Tasker talking about success fatigue? Did you happen to see that? And what did you feel about his assessment of, which kind of goes along the lines of what I've said for a long time? You can only burn hot for so long that at some point there's got to be a dip. How did you feel about his comments on that with this current Bills team?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I think it is understandable from September to November. And the idea, like the 1 seed as a target is tough because you want it badly and it helps you. But at the end of the day, if you don't get it, you get to just say, like, whatever. I had a buddy I used to do radio with a long time ago, Brad Ryder. He always had this classic line for me, which was, you can't fake desperation. And the Bills are not often desperate this time of year. When they got desperate at 6-6 a couple years ago, what they do? They won every game and they got into the postseason. And what are they in the playoffs? They're desperate in the playoffs because that's what the playoffs are. So I kind of get that. The idea of success fatigue. The other devil on my shoulder would want to say, what have you really won? Like, you won some divisions. You haven't been to a Super Bowl. The idea that you're tired of success, I mean, that might be a little tougher sell. So I do see what Tasker's saying, and I think it is tough to fake desperation in October.
Yeah, I that's a great line. You can't fake desperation. Yeah, I would like to think that it doesn't take much to be motivated to be, go out there and do everything you can to win football games. And what a privilege it is to be in the NFL. What an awesome fan base that has your back. What an opportunity, man. You can be an absolute legend in Buffalo. You get this thing done. I mean, absolute revered forever. And I don't know. I wouldn't take much to motivate me to go out there and lay it on the line every single opportunity that I could. So I think there's part of that rings most true to me. And I also think about Josh Allen and kind of where I think his headspace has fluctuated throughout the years. And I think he's trying to find that, all right, how do I do this, right? How do I be the quarterback that I'm supposed to be all the time, but, being mindful of just what human nature is and, how I can overcome lulls, right? I think that's been part of it. So I don't know. That's probably a word salad there, but that's what comes to mind. I mostly, it's like, I don't know, man. Like anything that I've ever done, I've never played in the National Football League, but I don't know. Every single thing that I do, I'm concerned that someone's going to be better and take something from me. And I don't know. Just the way I approach everything I do in my life, I feel like that would be something I would take to me as a football player as well.
I get what Steve was saying. I get some of it, but I think it also leaks into other areas. I think it leaks into coaching too. Okay. And we talk about, change, right? And I had a real good buddy that was a general in the Air Guard, and I went to his retirement ceremony, and he said a quote that I'll never forget, and I still use it to this day. And the quote was this: "If you don't like change, you're really not going to like irrelevance." And when I go back to that whole success fatigue thing, whatever, a lot of times I think that goes to coaching as well, along the points we were making earlier. Why change? We've got 17. It's been working. It'll keep working. It'll work its way out. He'll get out of the pocket at some point. We don't need to put stuff in to emphasize James Cook or change the passing game, or Keon will eventually get it. And I think a lot of it goes into that as well, that, it's always worked, so why change? And like I said, if you don't change in this league, you're going to be irrelevant real quick. And I think that's got a lot to do with coaching in other areas than just players as well.
Don't you kind of feel like that's shown up in the playoffs already, where the Bills kind of look like the Bills in the postseason? They don't, they did the tush push last year in the short yard. It's like, well, it's easy to defend because it was so successful, but like, you got to have some counters in the bag. You have to have some tendency breakers. I feel like that's maybe where this team has fallen victim. Like, I don't know, Sean McDermott scheme wise, I've been drop zone coverage my whole life. It's got me to this point, and like, where's the adaptability? And you hear, Sean McDermott, I think over the last year has said the word honest conversations more than I think I've ever heard him say it. And I wonder if at the root of it is some of this.
But I also think it's hard to do some of those things when you don't have the roster to be adaptable as well. When you have players that are one trick pony, so to speak, it's hard to come out and have a whole different set of stuff if you don't have those guys. I think that has a little bit to do with it as well. But I agree with you. It's the same, even in the playoffs, we see the same Buffalo Bills.
Well, there's a question here on the defense, and I'll cross promote here. Joe, your episode of the Locked On Bills show with Bruce Nolan, the Bruce exclusive, where you guys got into the secondary a lot, but you also got into what this conversation feels like it's going toward, which is, were the Bills about to start to change defensively, but some of the injuries and some of the players they're missing have not allowed them to finish that change? That's Michael Hoyt and Maxwell Hairston, I think, are the two biggest names here, right? Like, Hoyt should be a matchup piece, and Hairston's supposed to be their corner that's going to be the difference maker in the way they play. Did you come out of that conversation feeling that maybe there's still a defensive change to come? We just really haven't seen it to this point.
Well, I think that's kind of been what I've been hoping for all off season, as I've kind of talked through these different moves that are different, right? These are different types of pieces and players that have been implemented. And you think about some of the coaching influx of Ryan Nielsen and Mike Pellegrino, and you think, all right, yeah, there's definitely all of the signs point to some evolving, but we're holding them to something that's probably pretty difficult given those pieces haven't been available, right? The core pieces of Michael Hoyt and Maxwell Hairston that really allow you to do something different, they haven't been there. And so it kind of goes back to what I've tried to say throughout, that I thought that the first 6 weeks of the year were going to be a very challenging stretch for the defense. So we're going to want to talk about the defense, but we also, we really haven't seen what this defense wants to be. And I think as the offense has kind of let us down the last couple of weeks, it's kind of forced us to lose a little patience on the defensive side of the football. But yeah, I am anxious to see what this looks like moving forward with these players and, what it brings about. And I do think that they are limited based on a lot of their personnel that, they're having to play Trey White right now as a get-by option, and they've had to play. 60% of their defensive tackle snaps have been rookies or practice squad players. Like, there's something to that. And I think that affects every level of the defense. So I am curious to see what this looks like down the stretch as they get these pieces back.
Definitely. I think just to kind of piggyback a little bit is when I finally see a healthy roster for more than one game, when I see all the pieces in place, then I can make better judgments on what they can and cannot do.
It's the Bill Squad show here. We'll get the defensive side of things on the other side because we've got more potential changes. What the Bills could do here in the bye week during the self-scouting period. What could they come back with once they come out of this break in Carolina? What could be different about this defense? We'll get to that. More of your comments as well. Drop a like, a subscribe. Go listen to Joe's work this week on the Locked On Bills channel on the bye week, whether it's the All-22 or the conversation with Bruce Nolan. Just top-notch stuff, like really good stuff. So make a point after you listen to this one to go back and listen to all that stuff if you have not yet. To the defense when we return here on the Bill Squad show. This episode brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars that do more than simply move. That's right. Mazda. Confidence with every ride. More IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and that's why Mazda sweats the details as well. Mazda has Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Back here on the Bills Squad show, Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and the big O, Jerry Ostroski. Thanks for joining us wherever you get your podcasts or joining us live on the YouTube stream. We're here twice a week. Usually it's going to be a post-game show and then a midweek. With the bye week, we shuffle things up where today we'll go again Thursday. And also for this week, Carolina, we will not have an immediate post-game show, but we'll be cranking out a reaction show on Monday. Big week for you, Joe. The Mafia is coming to town for you.
I know. It's exciting. We have an event on Saturday. If you want more details on that, go to thejoemarino.com. Should be a lot of fun here. There's a lot of fans that live in Charlotte a lot that are coming in. I'll be at the game. Maybe something Friday night as well. I gotta see if my schedule is going to open up for that. So excited to interact with Bills Mafia here in the other Queen City.
Yes, they'll try to take over that stadium. Josh Allen has not yet played in that stadium, so
I know it.
It's one of the two remaining in the NFL. If you remember the list, I quizzed you guys with. They're down to two. You remember the other one?
Yeah, it's Levi Stadium in San Francisco. We'd like to check both boxes this year, please.
That's the Super Bowl. All right, guys. So talking self-scouting, what the Bills how they can change the way they look when they come back. Is there going to be a personnel change somewhere on the defense? Is somebody losing a starting job? What can they do about Taylor Rapp, Terrell Bernard, guys that we've kind of talked about a lot here in terms of disappointing starts to the season and starts to the season that I think would surprise the Bills staff. Like, you did not expect these two to be playing as rough as they are. How drastic should the change be for this Bills defense?
Joe?
Go ahead, Jerry. I feel like I've gone first on everything today, man.
I always like when you go first.
No, I'm ready for you.
You starting Jordan Poyer? I'll ask that way. Is Jordan Poyer on the field?
Yes, Jordan Poyer's on the field. I do believe Jordan Poyer plays this week. I think they've probably worked him in through this bye week. Folks, it can't get any worse. Let's just say that. And I imagine that Poyer will be really willing to get downhill and stick his face in there and make some plays. Now, you had made a comment the other show about his weight. I believe that maybe.
Yeah, he's playing. I believe he, from what I understand, he's playing at a light weight. Like if he's out there, he's going to be a little more slim than he used to be.
I don't have a problem with that. That means that he's going to be drop a little weight to be faster. That's fine with me. I don't think that that's an issue with Jordan Poyer. I think that Poyer is going to be a guy that could hopefully, continue to add some leadership in the back end of the secondary. Up front, it'll be interesting to see. You got Ogunjobi gets in the rotation, a guy that, like Joe said earlier, is not a practice squad piece, not a guy that you is a draft pick. He's a guy that's a veteran. He's got a lot of time in the league. He should be an upgrade there. Hopefully Daquan's healthy. You got Deion Walker, who's playing pretty good, and then you got Ed Oliver as well. So the only thing that I think, people are going to talk about, well, get out of 4-2-5 and go to base. Well, they've been playing a ton of base already.
24%.
24%. But now how does that base look? Do you utilize Michael Hoyt in base defense by dropping him off the ball and playing Bosa and Rousseau with Hoyt as the third linebacker? And then do we make a change with Shaq Thompson at middle linebacker? And have they, during this bye week, onboarded Terrell Bernard as maybe that outside linebacker? I don't know if that's asking too much. Can you in a week take Bernard and move him to the Milano spot, let Shaq Thompson play inside, and then when you hop to your 4-2-5, then go back to your normal lineup where Bernard plays the deep middle, kind of the rat in the hole in coverage, and do some things like that. So I think the Bills have some ability to get big on first and second down. The issue is the other team running no huddle to where you can't make it, you can't make changes as far as personnel go. That might be a problem. But yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, I don't know if they have the people to do it. I think that Walker could probably do it. Maybe Daquan, maybe Ogunjobi. Maybe if you're playing base in a first, second down where you have some, definite run situations, maybe line those guys up, head up in twos, and let them play a little more two gap than trying to shoot gaps to try to clog that middle up to where you're not trying to generate pass rush all the time out of them.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Michael Hoyt to come back and see what he can unlock for this defense, whether that's using him as a third linebacker at times or playing regular defensive end. But I think ultimately what I think he unlocks is a lot of the creative pressure looks that they want to tap into with their twists and their stunts and their games that they can run up front. And I think Michael Hoyt's kind of tailor-made for being able to, line up outside and rushing into your gap or vice versa, or, you can do some spot drops with him and have him as your spy mirror player. There's a lot of versatility that he's going to be able to unlock. And I don't just mean because he can play multiple positions. I think it opens up more of your scheme. And so I'm excited to see what that looks like. And then obviously Larry Ogunjobi, but I really hope that Maxwell Harrison can get up to speed, and it's hard to have expectations there. I understand he's a rookie that hasn't practiced since July 29th and has 3 practices and pads to his name in the National Football League. But I think you have to have some real urgency about finding out because, you've been, they've literally tried so hard to not put Trey White out there. They have, right? You could tell they were easing Maxwell Harrison in it, and then he gets hurt. Dorian Strong was getting, platoon, he gets hurt. And they tried Jamarcus Ingram last week, and boy, that was more rough than Trey White, but they're trying. So I think the sooner you can get Harrison in the lineup, I think that the idea of what he can be unlocks more of what you can do from a coverage perspective as well. Again, the expectations are hard to really put on that, but I'd be eager to find out because of the limitations that Trey White puts on this defense right now.
If in fact Poyer is going to get regular snaps, like Bills fans, of course, have a spot for him because of his history here. He was amazing. He was an all-time Bill. He was great. But when he got signed to the practice squad, there were concerns. It was sold as he's going to help Cole Bishop. Maybe he does go on the field and help Cole Bishop and play next to Cole Bishop.
Yeah.
How 5-alarm fire is it if Poyer is on the field, or is it 4-alarm because the current situation is 5-alarm? It's bad, but it's less bad.
It's less bad. Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. And I think there's value in other parts of it where, Poyer will be able to get in there and do all the communication. I have zero concerns about that. But also, I think it's going to help Bishop. I thought Bruce on that episode did a really good job of kind of talking about Taylor Rapp playing next to DeMar Hamlin and how he's a better player than next to Cole Bishop. Because for whatever you think of DeMar Hamlin, he's not an ideal starter. He's going to do what he's supposed to do, right? Like, he has limitations, but he'll be where he needs to be. And you wonder how much playing next to Cole Bishop has taken away from Taylor Rapp being, what he needs to be. So I think that Bishop will benefit from playing next to Poyer. I think Poyer can be better than Rapp based on the player Rapp has showed us this year. And I still think you get all the benefits of, hey, this is the leader, the communicator, that make sure that everyone knows what to do on each play.
The Bill Squad Show, talking defensive ideas and what they can do to get things on the right track. I have the bye week put a scary thought in my head that I normally wouldn't have thought of. And let's just do this. This is the segment of the show we're going to call Just Asking Questions. And I'm just going to ask you two a series of questions. And the first one I have is, first off, the Chiefs. Who do you think the Chiefs would least like to play in the playoffs. The way if they make it, they're 4-3, they're on the outside. But who do you think the Chiefs would least like to match up against in the playoffs?
Right now, this point in time, probably the Baltimore Colts or the Indianapolis Colts, I would think. Yeah.
I had that thought because there's a name, of course, with Indy that has beaten them in the playoffs, and that's Lou Anarumo. That guy had an answer one time. Not many teams have had an answer for that team in Kansas City. But I wonder who they would be afraid of the most. The Bengals, are they going to make it? I don't know. Is it the Colts?
I think the Colts are the most. They're probably the most well-rounded team in the league right now, in my opinion. When you look at complete from front to back end, passing game, rushing game, defense, I think they're probably the most complete package. I mean, we were all swooning about the Los Angeles Chargers, and they just absolutely demolished them. Now they've got some issues at the offensive line, but still, I think that this is a Colts team, again, another team that's benefited from draft pick position. And then also, Daniel Jones showing up and being in a system that fits him and he understands it, playing at a high level. I mean, we talk about Baker Mayfield being the possible MVP in the league right now at this point in time. Daniel Jones should get a lot of votes as well. But no, I think they're a dangerous team, but they're complete. I don't think they have really any weaknesses.
I don't think it would be the Colts. I think the most compelling thing about the Colts is probably the Lou Anarumo effect, and certainly he's had some success against Mahomes. But I do think that they are concerned about their own pass rush and their corners. I mean, they don't have anything right now at corner. And I think that Mahomes and company would be licking their chops to have that opportunity to play Indianapolis. And look, I mean, Daniel Jones is playing at a high level, but I think Shane Steichen's done well to mix in the run game and making a lot of binary things. The RPO game is really clicking for them. And so, I'm interested to see, like what type of counter punches they have down the stretch as they see some new challenges and face some adversity. And I think that they benefited from some game script stuff. And I think defensively, there's some questions about them. I think they're a good team. I do. But I would hope that this decision, like if the Chiefs could say, we don't want to play one team, I would hope they would pick the Bills. I wouldn't want to play Josh Allen in the playoffs. Like that would be my pick. And that's what it comes down to for me when I think about teams that the Bills are going to play up against. I don't like what quarterback do they have? Like I hear you on all this stuff, but like who's their quarterback? Josh Allen's still Josh Allen. And that'd be the guy he's obviously taken them to the brink the last 3 times, right? It's come down to some unfortunate circumstances for the Bills. But I think that would be the piece that would matter the most to the Chiefs is what quarterback it is. And I wouldn't want to play Josh Allen.
How do you feel about how the Bills currently look like they match up with the Chiefs versus years past?
Horribly. Yeah. They look horribly.
I think it's as bad as it's been in a while. Now we'll see them in a couple of weeks, but right about now, Rice returns and that offense has been a slow burn to kind of ramp up. Tyquan Thornton added in, healthy Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy. Like, I don't even know what it would look like for the Bills to stop them. I can't picture it. I can't figure how it would even happen.
And that was the point I was getting at is I don't think that they even have a worry about scoring points. So obviously if the Bills, if they're worried about the Bills and Josh Allen, it's again, another shootout, right? We're in a situation like we had with Baltimore in the first game of the season. I don't think that Kansas City has any sleepless nights over scoring points against the Bills right now. Now we'll see what happens in 2 weeks. But honestly, show me anything on paper or historically that shows that we can do that in the playoffs.
Yeah, the Bills are positioned as poorly as possible to match up with Kansas City, I think. And really what it comes down to is we've seen what Mahomes does to this zone coverage. He literally just dices it up when it matters most. And this is the worst zone coverage we've ever seen the Bills run. So, that's majorly concerning. But I think at the same time, Kansas City has probably some questions about their pass rush that they'd like to get figured out. I think they've been up and down with their defense in terms of defending the run. So I don't know, man. If you pick Daniel Jones over Josh Allen, I don't know what to tell you. I like what's happening.
What did I say?
Just
complete team, not necessarily.
I don't disagree, but I still think that there's tests coming for Indy that I want to see how they answer. What happens when they don't win the turnover battle and they have to rely on Daniel Jones? Like he's played the highest percentage of any quarterback this year with the lead in terms of snaps is Daniel Jones. Like What happens when Daniel Jones has got to find a little something other than, hey, we're playing with the lead, we're being aggressive, and we're pouring it on. It looks great, but I'm curious to see when they get a little pushback and when things don't go their way, what answers they have.
But I think probably the biggest test for Kansas City in the next so many weeks is going to be 2 divisional games against the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos are going to give them fits that they haven't done in the past as well. I mean, look at Nick Bonito, their pass rush. I mean, obviously, offensively, Peyton does a good job of manufacturing stuff. Nick's has moments of greatness, but still, that defense matches up well against Kansas City, so they got to beat them twice in their own division.
Man, Denver's given up less than 10 first downs in 3 games this year. That's insane to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Just asking questions. I've got another follow-up. This one's going to be brought about by a comment because I had this on the list of questions to get to you guys and just conversations. Robert writes in, nobody thinks Drake May is anywhere close to the level Josh at this point, period. And that may or may not be true. The question I was going to ask is this. Just asking questions, which means you're not allowed to get mad at me because I'm just asking questions. You land from a spaceship onto the NFL scene this year. You've never seen any year before this year, and you're asked who's the best quarterback in the AFC East. What's the answer?
Oh, it's Drake May. It's Drake May. Come on. Drake May's playing at a high level. Better than Josh so far this year. It doesn't mean he's a better quarterback, but
the reason I ask it,
go ahead.
Sorry, I don't ask it just to get that on. What I ask it for is, I think, Joe, we kind of went over a little bit earlier with Tua had a moment that the Dolphins, for a lot of people, felt like gimmick flash that won't last, right? And with May, I think you probably still have a lot of Bills fans left over that are sitting there saying like, okay, that's great. Call me when he's done it for a full year. Call me when he wins a playoff game. Like, he's still, of course, got a long way to go, but there's a lot of reason to believe that this is not a flash.
No, you asked and you said 7 games. There's 7 games that have happened this year. Drake May's been the best quarterback in the AFC East.
No,
he's not the best player. I think Josh Allen's the best player in the NFL. I think Drake May this year has been the best quarterback in the AFC East.
I agree with that. And the other thing is this. It's a little bit earlier in his career than with Josh Allen, but what is Drake May benefiting from? A non-contentious Steph Diggs. Steph all of a sudden has become motivated that he's this this leader of men, so to speak, this soothsayer that can speak truths to young quarterbacks. And his play has been very good this season, and therefore it's led to Drake May having better production, something that Josh Allen saw at one point in his career until – the bottom fell out of it.
I like this live comment here from William. Josh hasn't played 7 games yet. True.
Amen.
It's 7
Amen.
7-6. Good catch, William. Final question I have. This is a positive side of the Bills. We've got a lot of issues with the defense, but here's the third question in our Just Asking Questions segment. When all is said and done, Deion Walker will be Brandon Beane's blank best pick.
Ooh. Well, Josh Allen's his best pick.
That's right.
Boy, I'd have to say Spencer Brown was one heck of a third rounder.
Okay.
Christian Benford, where you at, brother, man? You for 2 years in a row, you were so good.
Like this, you're asking you to, prospect Walker based on what we've seen so far, which has been a lot of good. So
I'll go.
Right, you go first, Jerry. What do you got?
Deion Walker will be Brandon Beane's best reach pick in his career as general manager of the Buffalo Bills.
Reach pick.
Yeah, reach pick. He reached for him. I mean, come on. You look at it any way you want. The guy's playing well, but when you look at the film, that was a reach to trade up to get him when he got him. He drafted him for the things that God gave him and the intangibles, not the fact that he had amazing film.
Oh, you know me, I agree with that for sure. I think probably 4th best pick.
Okay.
James Cook's up there, right? Obviously, is a late 2nd round pick. I think that's the conversation. It's Allen, Cook, Brown, Benford, and then Walker's probably in that conversation. We'll see where it goes from here.
Very good. This has been Just Asking Questions. That's the one I thought about last week and said I wanted to give to you because I know, like with Walker and Jerry, McDermott, it's funny. I feel like McDermott is asked in these post games, how good was Walker? And his answer is like, well, a couple plays are good, couple plays we got a lot still to figure out.
He's feast or famine. I mean, he's feast or famine. It's really, really good or not good. And the problem is in the league, you need to be in the middle with consistency and then have the really good ones every now and then. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Isn't that where you want your rookie to be, though? Rather than him being steady, hoping to someday see these massive like, all right, we got the big splashes, we got the big flash stuff, and like the rest of it is something that's he'll learn, he'll figure it out. You hope.
Yeah, you want to see consistency out of rookies. You want to see them to be able to play within the system, and then because they have an understanding of what is going on within that system, then they start making big plays based off of their knowledge. You know, we've really been hard on Terrell Bernard this year, but a lot of times some of these linebackers have a little bit of a gripe. I mean, honestly, you know, we've seen not one to come downhill. Sometimes it's hard to come downhill when the second you're trying to read something, there's a guy in your face. That's kind of some of this maturation process with these young defensive tackles. If they're where they're supposed to be, you don't have free runners of offensive linemen getting up on the second level immediately. It takes some time to get there.
Well, it's single gap defense, right? So you see one guy's off, one guy takes on the block with the wrong shoulder. The defense is creased, right? And I think that's kind of where the highs and lows of Deion Walker come from. Where my goodness, the flash plays are awesome, and he's made his share of those. But you know, if he takes on the gap with the wrong leverage and he's turned out, there's a 21-yard run, and nobody's talking about it, but we want to talk about the tackle for loss. So there's been so much good, but the margins are very slim of the consequence of just being slightly out of your gap.
Because when you're not deliberately two-gapping and playing two gaps, a lot of what these guys are doing by alignment is, you know, Deion Walker's in a 1, so his body is in the A gap, but he's playing B through that defensive lineman. And if you're jumping backside all the time and retracing down the line of scrimmage, you're not in theoretically playing through B. You're stuck in A, and that's where a lot of these creases and stuff take place. It's hard to understand, but you're playing one gap with your body, the other gap you're playing through the offensive lineman and literally keeping him occupied through that gap. So you're almost playing the gap with that lineman's body, so to speak. So when you start hopping around, that's when you got issues.
When we get back, we'll get to some of the comments that have come in. You still have time to drop us a like, a subscribe, and a comment. Some trade deadline targets, some ideas for moving receivers around. We'll dig through those before we close out here on the Locked On Bills channel on Bill Squad. This episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. That's right, FanDuel. Got a couple of Monday night games on the way tonight. And with FanDuel, if you're a customer of FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Take a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So if you like the early game tonight, if you like the late game, Mondays, Thursdays, new customers, bet 5, get $300 in bonus bets. Makes football watching more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Lately, I've been going with like RB1s, anytime touchdown parlay 3 or 4 together on a Sunday, and riding with that. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started with FanDuel. Time for some comments and questions that have come in. Those of you watching on the stream, happy to have you along with us. Thanks for doing this with us. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and the big O, Jerry Ostroski. Bills and Panthers this week, and no Bryce Young. High ankle sprain, so something to monitor because it looks like it's going to be Andy Dalton, who last played the Bills in 2019. He's going to walk out there, see Trey White and Jordan Poyer, and he's going to feel right at home. Like, it's like I never left. Anyway.
I'm not convinced this is good news for the Bills.
No, it's not.
Yeah. All right. What percentage of that is that Joe Flacco just walked onto a field and saw a defense he's seen a million times and threw for 1,000,000 yards?
Not much. It's
okay.
I just don't think much of Bryce Young. I think he's so limited. And this, I don't know, vintage McDermott defenses would kill Bryce Young. Andy Dalton's going to drop back and know where to go with the ball. Bryce Young might not. I don't know. I was kind of hoping to see Bryce Young on Sunday.
Or he's going to be able to pull Bryce Young the ball to where he wants it to go. Yeah, I don't. Dalton will put the ball where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, he's a better quarterback.
They've got Ted McMillan, who's a good young rookie, and Jalen Coker just came back this last week for them, who's a good young receiver. He did not get any catches in their last game, but maybe this week he's a bigger part of their offense. All right, to the comments and questions. Can the Bills play with Shakir outside and Keon in the slot? That comes in from Bills fan 1421. And Walter, same kind of question. What is Shakir doing that requires him to play in the slot? For how he's used, I feel they could use him outside and move Coleman to the slot. Part of the problem maybe here is the logjam, right? A lot of people think Coleman could be inside more often. If they do that, do they have enough options to go on the outside?
Just looking at some Coleman slot metrics earlier today, courtesy of the Fantasy Points data suite, and his route running metrics are worse from the slot. He had 22 slot reps this year. He has a negative, lower separation score and a lower route win rate from the slot. I don't know. Like, I think you just make Khalil Shakir worse by playing him outside. But here's the deal with Shakir. Like, if you play outside, you are dealing with heavyweight battles against press corners. They're going to jam you at the line of scrimmage. Khalil Shakir has 0 percentile arm length. All right, so he needs the two-way go to play from the slot. You can't ask him to continuously beat press man coverage. So I think you put Coleman somewhere that he's not going to be any better, and you put Khalil Shakir somewhere that he's going to be worse, and anything that you would want Coleman to do in the slot, you'd rather Kincaid do it from the slot. So maybe the reality is just play Keon Coleman less, not find somewhere else for him. Play him as an X, but maybe not the highest snap taker of any receiver you have on a team.
Yeah, you don't worsen your football team offensively by trying to force somebody into production. It's, you can't do that. And Shakir does way too much stuff inside in the slot. I mean, obviously he's comfortable there. His run after catch is amazing. If you want to try to scheme up Keon in other situations, that's fine, but you don't weaken your offense by trying to force a guy the ball.
How about Shakir and his depth of target? Could he be used from the slot more effectively in different ways? His average depth of target among receivers in the NFL is the third lowest, ahead of only Greg Dortch and Malik Washington that was heading into this last week's games. I haven't seen any updates there. Is there more of a downfield element that Shakir could employ?
100%. So I think you have two things here. I think that's now we're talking. First of all, Khalil Shakir's average depth of target is always going to be a little bit low. He's one of the best 3 or 5 yards after catch players in the NFL. So that's naturally going to demand that. But I also do think there is more for him down the field. They like to use, or at least Joe Brady used to love that slot fade route. I think that's in the cards for him. I think you can get him going on some deep ends. I think you give him some choice routes, some posts. I think that's all there for Khalil Shakir. So the average depth of target always should be low, but yes, there is more for him to do down the field.
Is it possible they've fallen in love with it a little too much, the short stuff, because he's broken plays? Like, you feel like those are freebies? Like, he's got that in his game, but I don't want to limit him to only those throws that have those potential.
I almost think it's a built-in hot read for the Bills. It's like that security blanket. They know that if they get in the jam, they can hit him on those short routes as opposed to, trying to develop something else with him.
Well, one of the challenges that the Bills have with a lot of these out routes is they run mesh all the time. I mean,
right.
It's a huge part of their deal. And, like, you're really not supposed to throw a mesh route or shallow until it clears the ball. So that can't be your out route, right? It just doesn't get there fast enough. So I think they got to learn to break some of that off. They got to get a little more creative with how they deploy Khalil Shakir when they're getting pressure looks, because that should be a really lethal piece of this equation. Like, you want to blitz, okay, Khalil Shakir is going to sit in space and he's going to create after the catch, and the Bills need to make teams pay for that more by doing just that.
I think he's got the ability to run those deep crossers as well, because he gets lost. I mean, he's small in the way he runs. He can get through trash. He gets lost, and you can hit him on those deep crossing patterns as well. That's a great point, Jeremy. I think they more along the lines of limiting Shakir by moving him outside. How does Joe Brady develop him more as a slot than just the 3 to 5 yard guy?
Yeah.
Derek writes in, real question, who's better at X, Shavers or Coleman?
We don't know enough about Tyrell Shavers. His metrics aren't good in terms of separation scores either. The idea of him seems good. I'm interested, but I don't think we can definitively say that he's a better option than Keon Coleman.
I mean, they're kind of the same guy. One of them's just taller and bigger, and the other one's more dynamic as an athlete.
It might also be an unfair question to Coleman on some level, because they are kind of trying to make Coleman happen, and when it's not working, is it wrong to say it's making Coleman look bad? Like, they're not going to throw Tyrell Shavers 7 back shoulders that are incomplete, whereas they're kind of trying to make that happen with Coleman. All right, another comment here that came in regarding trade targets. Budda Baker, Arizona should sell. Too rich, bad fit.
Budda Baker is one of my 5 favorite players in the NFL. So, you get me Budda Baker. That's an absolute dog. And Arizona's, I feel like they've had opportunity after opportunity to do something there, and they just keep re-signing him. So, yeah, you get Budda Baker on the football team, I'll be happy. I think he's just one of my favorite players in the league. You watch Arizona, you can feel Baker Mayfield, Budda Baker on every snap.
And that goes along the lines with my love affair with physical downhill safeties, and he's right in the mix of
He's
it.
a baller, man.
Finally, I mean, we're here on a Monday. Picks for tonight, stories to watch for tonight. Doubleheader Monday Night Football. If you're a Bills fan, maybe you're watching the Texans at Seahawks late. And it features one of the best quarterbacks in football this year, Sam Darnold, having a great year. And then the early game is our guy Baker. We love Baker, right? Everybody loves Baker. Baker against the Lions, which should be a fun game too. So picks before we go?
I think that, as far as the first game, I like Detroit, and the reason why is because, okay, Evans was hurt. That's fine. Godwin's in and out. Okay. But now with, Emeka Ibuka with the hamstring situation and not knowing what that's all about, that might be a little bit of an uphill battle for Tampa Bay receiver-wise, although we do know Detroit's secondary is a little bit beat up. They've got injuries all across the board defensively. I just don't see them losing 2 games in a row, especially at home. And then the second game, I think that Seattle's defense is going to make C.J. Stroud's head spin. He's going to look like, it's going to look like The Exorcist. He's getting ready to see something he ain't seen in a while. I mean, that defense up there is really good. And then you throw Darnold playing well on top of it. I think Seattle's sneaky is a tough out as well. That's a good football team.
All right.
I'm in on the Bucks plus 6.5. I think that's too much. I like Detroit to win the game, but I don't think the Tampa gets smoked tonight. But I am heavy in on Seattle. I think the world of their defense. I think Sam Darnold's playing at such a high level. Just watch his footwork, man. This guy is really dialed in on what he's supposed to do, and that defense is really strong. And I mean, Houston's got bad offensive line, and C.J. Stroud's, can really pumpkin it up there under pressure. So give me both Seattle to cover -3 and Tampa Bay to cover plus 6.5.
Very good. We'll be back later this week. We'll get injury designations, a better idea of who the Bills will have available, maybe some practice notes as well. So we'll talk to you Thursday ahead of that Thursday night football game. And, of course, Bills getting back to the field in prep for Andy Dalton and the Panthers. Until then, gentlemen, thank you as always, and go Bills.
Go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.